Today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, and that is collectibles versus silver and gold. How you doing, everybody? Welcome to Empire Precious Metals. Thanks so much for watching. Today, what I wanted to talk about is one of my favorite topics. Haven't discussed this in a long time, and that's collectibles versus silver and gold. Now, those of you that have been following this channel for some time know that I stack silver and gold. However, I do have a pretty decent collection of other things, which I'm going to get into and talk about the different state of the markets for these different collectibles, and to basically see which is the better investment, silver and gold or collectibles. Now, those of you watching this channel more than likely are a stacker, somebody that buys silver and gold and just holds it for long-term growth. And I'm in agreement with you that basically silver and gold is the better thing to hold on to. But there are some alternative assets, also known as collectibles, that are extremely expensive and have extremely hot markets. Now, what got me thinking about this video topic is this Instagram post that I had seen, essentially saying that Pokemon are just as valuable as gold in some cases. And so I wanted to take a little bit of a closer look to see if this is in fact accurate. And so I want to talk about a few different things. I'm going to be talking about different collectibles such as comic books, trading cards like Magic the Gathering cards that I held up just a moment ago, some Garbage Pail Kids from many of our youths, and also talk about Pokemon and how these different assets actually stack up in relation to silver and gold. I actually do have some data which I'm going to share with all of you, and I'm also going to showcase some of the things that I have purchased and invested in and have lost money and have also made money. So let's take a look. So as of today, July 7th, 2025, silver is trading at around $36, which is up 78% from roughly $20.35 10 years ago. And I'm going to be talking about silver and gold over the last 10 years. Now, it did hit a low around 12 bucks and a high around $37 during that time period. Now, for gold, gold's trading at around 3,305 bucks, which is up 56% from $2,112 a decade ago. And it ranged between $1,049 to $3,455 over that time period. Now, what's important to know is that there was definitely a spike during COVID-19 between 2020 and 2021. So silver had jumped from 15 bucks to $30 and gold climbed $1,500 to $2,000, which was reflective of both metals' safe haven status. Now, getting into collectibles, right? As you can see here, I've got some of my prized possessions. Some of you may know what these are, some of you may not, depending on your age or if you lived in a cave. But these are Garbage Pail Kids, and I've got the entire collection, series 1 through 15, both A and B cards in several binders. Just amazing, amazing relic from the good old days. And I also happen to have some Magic the Gathering cards. More or less, the value of my Magic the Gathering cards are in these right here. These are known as dual lands. Some of you may know what these are, some of you don't. But those of you that have no idea what you're looking at, more or less, you could say that these cards go for anywhere between $300 to $800 a piece, depending on the condition. And I've got several of them, as well as other cards to boot. So now, talking about collectibles, comic books during COVID, they soared post 2020 per Go Collect price indexes. Trading card transactions ballooned 68% since 2021. And eBay saw 142% domestic growth in trading cards, with essentially Pokemon topping the charts. But by 2023, the luxury collectibles, including trading cards, saw price dips. Indexes plunged while stocks actually rebounded. So let's take a look, though, at each of these different assets and see what they are in terms of growth, liquidity, volatility, etc. So looking at this chart here, you've got silver bullion, average 10-year return, 130%, high liquidity, volatility is medium to high, expertise required is low to medium. You don't need to really know a lot about silver and bullion. COVID impact, spike, in 2020. Post-COVID trend consolidation, okay, and we're starting to see an increase. Now, gold, we've seen a 10-year average return of 181%. High liquidity, no surprise there. Volatility is medium. You don't need a big wealth of knowledge to understand gold. And obviously, there was a spike in 2020. Since COVID, we've seen a little bit of a pullback in terms of the percentage of growth. Now, slabbed comics. The average 10-year return varies widely, some 300%, and that's because there's just an insane amount of different comic books from different years, different comic book titles, different grades, etc. So it's very, very hard to peg overall how that market is doing. But you can see that there is some medium liquidity. Volatility is extremely high. Now, expertise, you need to have high expertise when it comes to comic books. Rarity, grading, there's just so much involved, as well as, you know, the key issues, etc. What's important about the particular issue? Who was the artist, the writer? There's just a ton of knowledge that goes into the comic book world. COVID impact, huge gains. Post-COVID trend, I can tell you from experience, there is a definite cooling off right now. Like I said, the wall that I have on in my studio has dropped, I would say, roughly 25 to 30% in value. Now, Garbage Pail Kids, how are these doing? All right, average 10-year return, very niche geology. Some sets doubled or tripled in value, specifically the first and second, as well as the 15th series, okay? The ones in between, they were mass produced, so not as high of a demand for those since there's just so much more of a supply. Liquidity is medium, volatility is high. Expertise, you do need to have some expertise about these, medium to high. COVID impact, there was a strong demand, stabilizing now since COVID. Magic the Gathering varies. Some premium sets have gone between 50 to 100% growth. Liquidity is high in some marketplaces. Volatility is high. You do need to have some expertise as well, okay? You need to know about print runs, some facts about the game and about the particular sets, okay? This is something that you do need to know a lot about. COVID impact, mixed. Okay, you've had some down, whereas others spike. Sometimes the game changes. Something happens with the Magic the Gathering rules, and that makes some cards more valuable, others not. Sometimes some things go on a reserved list, which basically means that some cards are no longer allowed to be printed, while others come off the reserved list. And these have also come down in value, have leveled out since COVID. And now Pokemon, an area that I know very little about. Some are up 150%. Some have doubled. Liquidity is extremely high. Volatility also is extremely high. You need to have some level of expertise when you're dealing with these types of things. COVID impact exploded in 2020 and 2021, but there have been recent corrections in the market, but still a hot niche. The takeaway, all right, the takeaway from this, guys, is that precious metals still continues to offer long-term steady growth, liquidity, low expertise threshold. Collectibles, they have a higher upside, but come with major variability, deep knowledge requirements, and potential boom corrections. Now, when we're talking about the COVID era pricing of precious metals, we saw that sharp demand in 2020 as the markets panicked. Silver almost doubled, gold surged $1,500 to $2,000. Now, comics and collectibles, back issues hit unprecedented prices. Fully graded Pokemon, sports cards, etc., they also soared majorly and fueled by eBay and investor interest. Now, in terms of rebound and cooling, by 2023, we saw collectibles, they had some declines. Trading card indexes dropped as inflation and interest slowed. And meanwhile, metals have held their value and rebounded with inflation fears, as well as in ETFs. So like I said, when it comes to precious metals, okay, they are a lot more steady. You do not need such a high level of expertise when it comes to buying and selling this stuff, Essentially, you could just buy generic things just for the weight of the gold and silver and be done with it. There's obviously more to know about silver and gold. It just depends on how far you want to go and what you want to get into in terms of collectibles, numismatics, and semi-numismatic coins. But my one thing that I would say to all of you is if you are getting into any sort of collectibles like you see here, you might want to consider buying only the stuff that you like and that you understand, and don't get into it from the standpoint of looking to buy and sell unless you have a high knowledge on this stuff. Because a lot of times what's going to happen if you don't understand certain markets that you are trying to get into, you are going to get burned. So you always want to have a backup plan, an exit strategy, know what it is that you are doing when you are dabbling in collectibles world. And when you are getting into silver and gold, also have your exit plan and know what it is that you are doing. For a brief period of time during COVID era, I was also buying and selling comic books, but just because of the amount of knowledge needed for comic books, I stopped doing that because it was just too much to take on and there was too many variables involved with comics. The grades, the things that people collected, it was just too much. So something I didn't continue to pursue. Luckily, I got out of that when I did, because otherwise I probably would have been stuck holding a lot of comics and been upside down in that world. So anyhow, I hope this makes sense to some of you. I just wanted to shed some light on the collectibles world and how they stack up to silver and gold, and curious as to what it is that you collect. Let me know in the comments down below if you are collecting trading cards, comic books, etc., and how have you done over the years with those collectibles. Now, if you thought this video was helpful and entertaining, please make sure that you blast that subscribe button and get that bell notification clicked, and then make sure you tune in to the next video, and I will see you on the next one.